Hello, everyone. Welcome to our side event. We should have some minutes before we started, so please feel free to say hello in the chat, add your email, and say hi to everyone that is joining us. We'll be starting soon.
Okay, everyone ready?
Yes.
Isabella, over to you now.
Okay, so perfect. Can you all see my screen? Yes, no, it is showing.
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone. So once again, welcome to our session. I am Dr. Isabella Espíndola. I will be your moderator during the session, and I'm also one of the speakers. Our side event today is on establishing young water professional network, and we do have an amazing panel composed by speakers from all over the world, from different organizations involved with the water and the climate, water and the climate sector, and they will be all sharing their experiences on how their organization promotes network and why network is so important for young water professionals and how to do this. So I will start soon, but I just want to acknowledge that we do have also our rapporteur and Ms. Yasha Manen, and rapporteur will be taking notes from this side event. So if you have something that you want to add, please do reach out to our rapporteur in the chat. So without further delays, I just want to share our agenda for today. So as I mentioned, I'll be doing the welcome, introduction, and housekeeping rules. Then I will pass over to Ms. Emily Ryan, who will do some activities as an icebreaker. Then I will do my presentation, followed by Afalayan from the World Youth Parliament for Water. Then Claudia from the Water Youth Network. Then we have Chopin from Kai for Water, Maria Mercedes and Shanzihan from Unify, and then Michele from WFO, talking about this topic of as young water professionals and how we should do networking, why it's important to do networking. Then we also have another activity with Emily, and I will be doing the closing remarks. And if you have any questions, comments, and you want to interact, please do use the chat function, and feel free to share your contact details and do connect with the other participants of the session. So in order to start the icebreaker, I would like you to scan this QR code or follow the link to Mirrorboard. I will be also posting on the chat. And Emily, are you ready? So I can stop sharing and go to Miro. Emily?
All right, great. Thank you so much. Thanks, Isabella. And good morning, good afternoon to everyone who's on the call today. So this is a quick icebreaker, and I can see everyone can see the board now. What I'm going to do is give a quick overview of the Miro board, how you can interact with it during today's session. We're going to do a really quick icebreaker on it just so you can get to know everyone. This being a side event, we have the opportunity to interact more with the audience, so we want to hear from you a little bit. But just to give a quick overview of the Miro board, you're able to move around it, but I'd recommend you sort of follow me during the activity. But we'll do this activity in a moment. But before I get to that, we have two other things on the side here. So we have the business card wall. This is so you can network with other people participating in the session. You can fill out a little sticky note with your name, your country, maybe your LinkedIn URL, and any of your affiliations. And this can help you find one another after the session and connect with one another. So feel free to fill out one of these sticky notes with your contact details. And then just here we have our Q&A board. So what you can do is you can grab one of the sticky notes from the pile here and type your question in. So I don't know, this is not a good question, but this is while the speakers are talking. You can type in your question and then you can just vote on it if someone else's question by dropping a little dot to vote on it next to it. So that's just a little demonstration of how the Miro board works. Now, back to the Q&A, sorry, the icebreaker activity. So a really quick introduction to this. So the idea of this activity is to just say when was the last time you did something. So if you can see my view here, the first question is, when was the last time you went into the office? This is a virtual conference, so I think some of you might already be back in the office. But for me, last time I was in the office was in November 2021. So it's been a while. But if other people wanted to, yeah, someone was in today. I can see that Mario's in the office right now. And someone else said they were last in the office end of July. All right, so people are coming back. All right. So the next question is, when was the last time you attended a conference, either in person or online? So you can grab a sticky note from the side or add a new one here. Also feel free to, our speakers, feel free to turn on your mic and share when was the last time you attended an in-person conference or an online conference. I know for me, the last in-person one was in October 2020, I think, 2021. I was lucky enough to go. Oh wait, no, that's not true. I went to one in June. 2019. You must be looking very much forward to going to another one in person. Okay, so the next quick icebreaker question was, when was the last time you were the only young person in the room at work or in any kind of decision-making setting? I think for me, maybe do one of our speakers want to share when was the last time they were the only young person in the room at work? Maybe I'm gonna pick on someone. I'm going to say Cholpon. When was the last time you were the only young person in a meeting or in a decision-making setting?
Well, that's a good question because it happens quite often and for quite several years now. So I might be like one of the few young people in the room. So
so maybe even like yesterday or today or last Friday. How about Maria? How about for you? When was the last time you were the only young person?
I actually really I was thinking about that, and in the sector that I work here, I work with charities, and there's a lot of young people, so it's very intergenerational. And I was thinking, I'm like, on Friday I had a meeting with someone who was like 60 and another person who was like 25, and so
oh, wow.
I was thinking Fridays. I didn't know what to put it.
Oh, that's good. But there's a real diversity in like, yeah, people's working situations. And for some people, you might be the only young person in the room. And some people, yeah, you're working with youth and young people all the time. But that's why this last question is really important, which was, when was the last time you were involved in a young water professional network? Which is the reason we're here today, is talking about setting up young water professional networks. So for me, it'd be, when was the last time I was involved in a young professional network? I should say today. So I'm part of the International Water Association's Young Water Professionals. And I think we have plenty of young people on the call who are part of different networks. So I'll say I'm part of the IWA. But I see some people also here saying that they haven't had the opportunity yet to be involved with YWP networks. So hopefully this session is going to be useful for you guys, that you'll learn a little bit about what kind of networks out there, how you can get engaged with them, and how you can potentially start one up in your region, or get connected with one in your country or in your region. But with that little ice-breaking activity over, I'll hand back to Isabella to get started with the speakers. And just a reminder, you can drop your questions in the Q&A box over on the side here while the speakers are talking. And if you put your name on the sticky note with your question, I can call you out and you can ask the question on your mic. And I can also see lots of people filling out the sticky notes with their business cards. So looking forward to seeing that wall full by the end of the session. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Emily. So let me go back to the presentation. It was really good questions that you had. And I was thinking the last time that I was the only young water professional in an event. And I do have to say that I'm quite lucky, because all these events and the sessions and workshops that I've been attending as a speaker or just as a participant, I did have the opportunity to connect with other young water professionals. So yeah, it was good. Pretty lucky. Okay, so I hope that you are all seeing my screen. And same as Emily, I'm also from the International Water Association, and I work there as the membership engagement officer responsible for the young water professionals. So besides being a young water professional myself, at least for 3 more years, I show YWP. I'm also responsible for connecting all the young water professionals, creating opportunities for them, and promoting this intergenerational exchanges. That's something that I'm going to talk about today. And to start this presentation, I do have to explain what is the International Water Association. So for those that do not know IWA, IWA is an association, is a membership-based association, and we do work in promoting and these exchanges and developing of knowledge for sustainable water solutions, SDGs, and the 2030 agenda. So our aim is to connect young water professionals with senior water professionals, promoting their professional development, creating opportunities for them, engaging, and being a supporter, a catalyst for innovation, and trying as much as possible to highlight the best practice that we have in the water sector, connecting these different stakeholders that we have, and creating a knowledge hub for the water sector. And our aim is also to empower youth. So we empower young water professionals to contribute to achieve the sustainable water management and governance. This is part of IWA vision for this. And it's also something that is connected with our strategic goals. We work with a 5 years cycle for our goals. So we aim to create an engagement and balanced membership. Think about the professionals that we have from the global south and the global north, being this search for a leading edge water knowledge, creating the space, this hub for professionals to exchange water knowledge. So yeah, we promote network, being this bridge between research and practice. So science communications and collaboration across sectors and across different parts of the science area that we have. And also creating a space to support the implementation of the SDGs. And we have members from all over the world, from different stakeholders that I mentioned. And since the pandemic, we try to create this online hub, promoting as much as possible events and opportunities to engage our members in online platforms. And this goes from webinars to workshops to get-togethers to specialist events and forums and others. So besides this explanation about what is the IWA, I also have to explain what is the IWA Young Water Professionals communities. And I do have to explain this because when we are talking about youth, we do have different concepts and understandings about what is youth. So for IWA, Young Water Professionals, our youth are all the members that we have that are aged 35 or below or younger, and they came from multidisciplinary backgrounds. And I also added here the photo of our YWP steering committees. And they are the ones that are helping us to shape and to develop strategies for young water professionals. And as I mentioned before, our mission is to empower young water professionals and to develop this hub, this space for them to engage and to contribute to the water sector. So if we are thinking about the structure that we have in IWA, the YWPs, they are we do have the country chapters and their steering committee. They are the one that I showed the photo before. And they help us to create these opportunities to attract and to empower the young water professionals engaging then in the water sector, but also connecting with the other members that we have. So in the international level, we have the steering committee, the ones for the photo. And in the national levels, we do have the country chapters that I'm going to show. Image with a map with all the chapters that we have. The country chapters, they are a voluntary network composed by IWA, YWP members, and they work as our ambassadors in a region. So in the national level and the regional levels, they are the ones engaging the young water professionals. So they work as a hub in the country, focus on developing activities tailored for the needs and the specifics of the region. So for example, I'm from Brazil, I'm from Latin America, and we have some chapters in Latin America, and the activities that they develop there are focused on the challenges that the young water professionals they are facing there. Similar happens to the other chapter that we have all over the world. So now you guys know about what is IWA, and you know what is the YWP community that we have. Now I want to explain what is this intergenerational exchange that IWA is promoting between the young water professionals and the senior members that we have. So when a member, an individual decides to become an IWA member, we have this engagement image here that I'm showing. So in general, as soon as they started connecting with the publications, because IWA has a platform for journals and book. So if you're into academia, you can publish your work with us. So we have some really good journals, well-recognized journals related to the water sector. So they started with the publications, big partners from some of our specific groups. So they start participating in IWA activities. And as soon as they start engaging and contributing, they are more active in the association. But the main thing is what does this mean for a young water professional? So how they start, they engage, they contribute, and they lead the IWA community itself. So the first part, they start attending these events that we organize, or they can start being a member of a country chapter that I mentioned. They get to know IWA via events similar to what we have today, or they come across some of our newsletter and social media, and then they decided to be part of IWA. So they start engaging, being a rapporteur in some of our events. They decided to review some of the abstracts that are submitted to a conference. They decide to join a chapter, and they start networking in our platform, the IWA Connect, the main hub for networking with IWA. And the next step for them is to contribute. This contribution means that they will start leading a chapter as being part of the steering committee, or they can join other steering committees. They start contributing to specific groups, the task groups, or the clusters. And they decided, for example, to organize an IWA event. And all these contributions, they start also connecting with the senior members. Seniors, when I talk about seniors, not only a very well recognized professor, but also a senior YWP. So they start learning with older YWPs to understand the structure of IWA and how they can engage with the community itself. And when they decided that they have done a lot for IWA in terms of contribution, they are also starting leading the discussion that we have in IWA. And the leading part is really connected to what they are doing with the country chapters, if they are part of a government member, if they are organizing events and being part of the communications. So how they are proposing activities such as workshops, webinars, and even facilitating some of those online engagements that we proposed. And everything that they are doing related to these opportunities that I mentioned, they are connected with senior professionals. So they engage with other leaders from the water sector. They are able to network and exchange their expertise, especially during the IWA events. Through our journals and the publications, they get the latest advancements in the water sector. They are gaining this professional development, and they start being part of this global community that IWA created. And this, the image here shows some of the task groups, the specific groups, the opportunities for the YWPs to connect and to get to know their seniors and to network. So yeah, you have a lot of programs, clusters, and events that you can attend and to be part of it. So if you're ready to become a member of IWA, please scan this QR code. You can go to IWA Connect, and if you use the discount code that I'm sharing here on the screen, you can have 20% discount on new membership. And since we are talking about opportunities to engage and to network with other peers in the water sector, I want to highlight that we have our Congress coming up in September, and some of the speakers present here, they will be joining the event as a speaker or as a participant. And it's a really good opportunity to meet other IWA members. It's going to, the Congress is present, it's inside events. We're not going to have any kind of online interactions this year. And during the event, we have the Emerging Water Leaders Forum. This is the dedicated space for YWPs, for young water professionals to connect and to engage. And we're preparing a lot of activities for youth to discuss the water challenges. And talking about water challenges, may I request that you all participate in the survey that we are currently carrying IWA to identify water challenges in all the countries and regions around the world, and also some of the possible solutions. So you can scan the QR code, or you can fill the form that is available on the link that I'm sharing on the screen. So thank you very much. And I would like to call Afolayan. Afolayan, are you ready?
Yes, thank you very much, Isabella. That was a great one from you.
So,
all right.
Just a quick introduction. Afolayan has over 5 years of professional experience in covering water policy, mobilizing young water professionals, and he is doing his PhD here in the Nottingham University in the UK, and he's also the current coordinator of chapters working at the World Youth Parliament for Water. And Afolayan is the winner of the Kofi Annan Foundation Changemaker Award. So congratulations again for winning this prestigious award. And I'm sure that today you're going to contribute a lot to our session. So Afolayan, I hand over to you.
Again, thank you very much, Isabella. And it's a pleasure for me to be part of the 2022 edition of the Asia Water Forum. As you mentioned, I am the chapter's facilitator for the World Youth Parliament for Water, and I bring greetings from our president, Carolina Makina. I will be speaking on the uniqueness of states in forming sustainable alliance among young water professionals. I believe this is something very strategic in our aspiration to establish a very robust network of young water professionals globally. If you can move to the next slide. Yeah, I have this outline to guide my presentation, and over the next couple of minutes, I would look into the diversities in water realities globally and using some models that would help actualize the knowledge I intend to share with us. Also, I'll share on the influences of water goals and how we can synthesize sustainable alliance among young water professionals. And then I would draw a conclusion from some of those which I believe would be a key takeaway for every one of us today. Next slide, please. All right. The World Youth Parliament for Water has presence in over 44 countries of the world, covering different regions. And over the years, in some of our activities, we've come to realize that there are diversities in the water realities in the different part of the world. And we've conceptualized this into 4 major areas. First of all, I would also want to give example as I describe some of these areas. When we look at a country such as the UK, we see that the biggest water problem as of today is water shortage. And this is because the country is a developed one, and with increasing population, which brings the problem of equitable access to potable water resource. But compared to this, when we look at the Middle East, such as in countries such as Yemen, we see that their own biggest water problem is water unavailability. There is huge scarcity of water as a resource in that part of the world. Then when we go to the north of Africa, in a country such as Egypt, we'll see that even though there is the availability of water as a resource, it is in a diplomatic form where it has issues between 2 or more nations. And this guides the use and the approach to water access in that part of the world. And when we check into Asia, especially the central part of Asia, we'll see that even though there is water availability, but in some part, it is in the unusable form because of heavy industrial activities such as mining, which has led to the pollution of the available water resource. I also try to check into this because we recently launched a chapter in Nigeria, and we've kind of observed a distinction that exists in that country. We realized that in the northeastern part of the country, because of the climatic reality, they are faced with water unavailability. In the southwestern part of the country, which is the economic hub of the country, it is unequitable access to water. And in the southern part of the country, where there is robust oil exploration, they have acute water pollution. And the north central part of the country, because of the geographical instability, then the water situation is just unpredictable as the year goes by. So this understanding is necessary to draw our attention to the realities that exist when we're trying to form partnership between young water professionals, or we want to bring in players or actors from different and youth-led water organizations. Next slide, please. So with the understanding as I've previously presented, it is important for us to establish that there is a common global vision for water, and this is explained in the Sustainable Development Agenda, or the Agenda 2030. But it doesn't change the fact that young water professionals are spread across different organizations, be it transnational, national, or local, like the International Water Association, the World Youth Parliament for Water, the Global Water Partnership, the Water Youth Network, and a whole lot of youth-led water organizations. But each of these organizations, they have their unique focus or water aspiration that are presented as their core vision. Some are faced with surface water, groundwater, water toxicity, water engineering, water technology, reusable water, and in different forms. And this aspiration is influenced by the reality around their catchment area. An organization that is focused on activities in the UK may likely have a different focus from the one that is in the Middle East or the Sub-Saharan Africa. And the success of each of these organizations is measured by how much of the objectives they are able to cover over a given period of time. With the understanding of this diversity, then how then can we synthesize a sustainable alliance among young water professionals to drive common goal for water? So in the word, so the next slide, please. Thank you very much, Isabella. At the World Youth Parliament for Water, we have tried to create a model by which we could accomplish this. And the first thing that we need to do is, first of all, to identify the similarities that exist among the organizations or among the young water professionals. Where do we have similar objectives? Where do we have similar goals? And once we identify this, we should also check the parallels that exist between the two organizations or the two components or more that are coming together. What are the differences that exist? And once this is known, how can we establish a common ground and a working structure to promote a very efficient collaboration between the components that are coming together? So this is very strategic because it will guide the approach of such alliance, and it will make it a very robust and effective one. Next slide, please. So for the alliance to be a very sustainable one, we've kind of established the ingredients or the very essentials of what ought to be done to make sure that it is one that would be operational over a very durable period of time and would stand the test of the differences that exist in each of the components that are therein. First of all, we believe that such should be formalized, not just the youths coming together, but it should be a formal alliance between them with exploring all formalization procedures that exist or that are possible. This gives a sense of understanding and a sense of purpose to that alliance that is being formed. We also believe that such alliance should not significantly alter the interest or the scope of operation of the individual persons, organization that are coming into it. And also, resource contribution may be different because of our different resource outputs and capacities. But this should not mean that the rights of the individuals within the component should not be respected, or because an organization or a person is bringing in a bigger chunk of the contributions should not allow for the violation of the rights of the other components within that. We also believe that the representation must be balanced, and there should be a system to monitor the progress of such alliance that has been established, because this would give an understanding if there is progress indeed, or if the alliance is really worth it. Next slide, please. Okay, I have kind of put here in a matrix, the keywords that comes to our mind when we think of forming an alliance at the World Youth Parliament for Water, and some of them are there for us to see. We believe that any youth-led alliance that is aimed at actualizing sustainable water provision and equitable access to potable and usable water is one that should be pursued without hesitation. And we also believe that there are a lot of possibilities when young water professionals, when they network. Next slide, please. If you are able to check this code on the screen, that is the World Youth Parliament for Water Youth Vision for Water. And I want to appreciate everyone for listening. And I thank you very much for your time. For that information, you could check through our website, and you see the opportunities and every areas where you could contribute for people that have interest to join part of our network at the World Youth Parliament for Water. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Afolayan. And Claudia, are you ready? A quick,
Yes.
while Claudia is coming, just a quick introduction. Claudia is a sustainable investing specialist, and she is also the co-coordinator of the water governance group of the Water Youth Network. And she is engaging and representing YWP voices, for example, in the OECD Water Governance Initiative. And through the network, she hopes to encourage a spirit of ongoing and learning and exchange between many generations of water professionals and water professionals. So Claudia, hand over to you.
Thank you so much, Isabella, and also Afolayan for this presentation. And hello to everyone also from my side, and thank you for inviting me. I'm excited to be here with everyone in the exciting panel. So I'm here today to talk to you about a specific model of how we established the Water Use Network, as well as share some reflections with you around challenges of running the network and also opportunities. Next slide, please. So what is the Water Use Network? We see the Water Use Network as a connector in the water sector. So we are global. We have members from all around the world, even though we have quite a few from Europe. And we are inclusive, so everybody is welcome to participate. Who exactly is part of the network? So we are a community of students and young professionals. So we also have a definition of up to 35 in age for members to be there, but we also engage with our alumni quite extensively. And we have professionals and students across all water-related disciplines. What's quite important is that the idea is not to compete with other water use organizations, but mainly to connect existing ones and promote them, and also to promote our young water professionals and our members specifically. So we see our core role in empowering and connecting and really bringing various different use initiatives together. I think this is quite important in terms of how we see ourselves, and I'm going to discuss this a bit more with you when we talk about representing young water professionals versus youth voices in general. So basically, we see ourselves as a platform that connects young individuals with each other in the water sector, but also to more established organizations. So why have we started? The Water Use Network actually was created in 2012 after the World Water Forum in Marseille, the 6th Forum, where a group of young water professionals came together and decided to set up the network. And why they did that is because they saw a great opportunity in meeting at these conferences of exchanging views and learning about their different use initiatives, and also mingling with established organizations and finding opportunities to engage. And they saw a bit of a gap in there, so they decided to form this platform to bring young water professionals together, but also give each individual more visibility by having the Water Use Network in their background, basically. And by also creating this network, they saw a bit of a more organized opportunity for young water professionals to engage with established organizations through that. So it was basically another opportunity to get young water professionals together to influence youth engagement in the water sector. And as it was set up in 2012, it was formally established in 2013 in France, and then in 2017 it was officially registered in the Netherlands. And we are currently, now that we're about 10 years old, in the process of renewing these registrations and our principles, which is very timely with today of reviewing how we work and what we can deliver and what the opportunities are. Next slide, Isabella. Thank you. So just to recap on what our objectives are. So overall, the aim of the Water Use Network is to offer a platform which is online and offline for young people in the water sector to exchange with each other, but also to find opportunities. So exchange on opportunities among each other, but also have the network bring opportunities to them. So what do we target specifically? We primarily target opportunities for sessions at international conferences to partner with organizations and give young water professionals an opportunity to speak on those panels. So it's basically our main mandate is to create visibility of young water professionals and create an opportunity to connect. So conferences were always one of our core engagement strategies, which is interesting because I'm going to reflect on this as well as our learnings from the last 2 years of pandemic. So yeah, we started at the World Water Forum, but our largest gatherings were also always around Stockholm World Water Week, which is how I actually learned about the network and started joining. Then, of course, we're also really interested in creating opportunities for our members with partner organizations. So we see there the Connect and Empower opportunity, where we share opportunities that are brought to us as a network, but also our members bring opportunities to us depending on the initiatives they work on. And of course, we also are involved in knowledge exchange. So we organize seminars and webinars, and we're very interested in an ongoing exchange between generations of water professionals. So our alumni, but also something Isabella highlighted quite extensively, and not just having young people speaking to young people, but also bringing them to the table, but also exchanging with more established water professionals. So while this all sounds a bit ad hoc, we do have some flagship initiatives as well, which I'm going to explain to you a little bit more on the next slide. But I think it's quite important to highlight this in terms of how to run a network, because we do promote young water professionals' inclusion in decision-making processes. And we really also always focus on facilitating the adoption of use-friendly policies, but it's very specific in terms of how we work on what we can enable our members to do. But first, I want to show you the structure of our network, which then I think gives you a bit more insight into how we work and what we do. The next slide, please. Okay, great. So I thought this structure can maybe help you get a bit more of an understanding of what we actually do. So we do have an advisory board, which is the core, let's say, management team of the network. But then the bulk of the work and the most activity actually happens in those thematic groups. So you see those green yellowish circles. We currently have 4 working groups, one on disaster risk reduction, one on integrated water resources management, one on water governance and policy, or the water governance group, and one on WASH. These were just themes that emerged out of the time when the network was set up, but lots of topics are covered on the network. And it's quite important to show that these groups actually work quite autonomous and independently. So for example, I'm the co-coordinator of the water governance group. We have our monthly meetings where we coordinate our initiatives with our members that are specifically engaged in initiatives under that topic. But then we also have monthly meetings with all the coordinators across those 4 groups, together with the advisory board, on exchanging on our initiatives, what's ongoing, what type of activities are coming up, but also reflecting on the position of the network and how we work. And then we have special projects which are a bit more cross-cutting. So a very popular one is a platform that the Water Use Network set up as well to share knowledge across different topics. And of course, we have a group of support groups as well, which is basically our HR team, communications. We have people that help us work on communicating on behalf of the network per se. So our Instagram, our Twitter accounts, our website, but also helping to onboard new members with the email addresses. So this is kind of the structure. As you see, it's like not very hierarchical, and any initiative comes out of our 4 working groups. So I wanted to give you a couple of examples of maybe how we work, because we do overarching initiatives. So as Isabella was mentioning, for example, I'm together with some other members are working with the OECD in the Water Governance Initiative. This is a long-term flagship initiative we've been working on. We've also been working with the Valuing Water Initiative in the Netherlands on a You Engage strategy, where we really looked at youth engagement specifically. We work currently with the Equal Aqua platform, also on inclusion in water sector jobs. And currently a new initiative that is coming up is also working with various different youth organizations and stakeholders on a 30-30-30 youth campaign, which is trying to increase youth engagement. So we have these overarching initiatives on specific youth engagement topics, but we also do very subject specific work, but this one is very much carried by our members. So an example is the Youth for the Rhine initiative, which is very basin specific, where actually our members are not just representing our network, but they're part of a local youth organization. And by being a member of the Water Youth Network as well, they facilitate this knowledge exchange of bringing information of what is happening on the ground, trying to connect with other people for additional support, look for funding opportunities, speaking opportunities. So while they really do the work on the ground with another youth organization, the Water Youth Network then offers them another platform to connect globally with others on this. A similar one is members being involved in the Med 2050 initiative. So this is around the Mediterranean Sea Basin, which is also a very specific water topic where members are engaged in local initiatives, but then they come also to this international platform. And and then highlights, of course, are also for us always conference representation. So we just had a delegation also joining the Dushanbe Water Conference. We've seen some pictures in Isabella's slides of this one as well. Great. Next slide, Isabella. Thank you. So what I wanted to highlight today, and I think it's something we've been discussing quite a bit in the learnings we had of setting up a network, is actually that we started differentiating a little bit between representing young water professionals versus youth voices in general, because we understood that this is actually quite key in terms of what we can deliver and what we can't deliver, and how we bring our members together. We've also learned quite a bit from our engagements with, let's say, the Valuing Water Initiative on reviewing youth engagement in general, or what we do with the OECD, but also from the pandemic. So we see our core activity in offering opportunities to connect. So we really connect young water professionals with each other, but as a network through the coordinators and our advisory board, we also build partnerships with other organizations of creating opportunities for young water professionals to get involved. So an organization comes to us with an opportunity, and we can reach out to all our members and find representatives to get engaged based on their interest, their availability, but often also on their specific subject matter expertise. If it's a very dedicated WASH-related activity, we reach out to the WASH group, and depending on your local knowledge, we can create these connections. That's part of what we do. And we see this quite as core, because what happened during the pandemic is that we've also engaged quite a bit in offline work that didn't really create a lot of opportunities for members to actually really connect. And we learned this also during the pandemic, that many had a bit of a Zoom fatigue, which is a struggle. I mean, we're in an online meeting today as well. But a core of what we always delivered over the last years is actually getting people together at conferences by creating visibility, creating speaking opportunities, helping our members to bring their local water use initiatives onto an international platform. And in our review of renewing a bit our principles and registration, we've been looking back into this, that our first and foremost, we see our role in really representing young water professionals, bringing them together, giving them an opportunity to speak, to connect, to bring them to the table. And then, of course, as a secondary role within that, we're always representing use on water and youth engagement by representing this. So what the network can then enable people to do is basically empower them to take up these roles. While I'm highlighting this is because I think it's a mix of top down and bottom up. We have members from the local initiatives that come join the network and reach out to others with specific opportunities, which is great because we can create a platform to connect also with other organizations. Sometimes opportunities are being brought to us by organizations, which are quite even work heavy in terms of writing reports, reviewing reports, doing surveys. And not always we also find members to take up these roles, which then creates limited opportunities for us for partnership. So I'm speaking with you quite openly here because I think a topic was also the question around how to establish a young water professionals network and what are the learnings and the challenges. And I'll stop here, but I'm looking very much forward to answer your questions, and I'm happy to discuss this further. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Claudia. So, Chopin, are you ready? While
Yes.
she's setting up, just a quick introduction on Chopin. She leads the Central Asian Youth for Water, in being the regional co-coordinator for Central Asia and Afghanistan. Currently, she is International Climate Protection Fellow of the Alexander von Humboldt Foundation, while she's carrying out her research on the interface of water, climate, and security in Central Asia, with a special focus on collective leadership, supported by her host institution. She organized a number of youth empowerment activities, and she was also one of the youth delegates during the Dushanbe water process. Chopin holds an MA degree in politics and security on Central Asia from OSCE Academy in Bishkek. So Chopin, right, show you.
Thank you very much, Isabella, first of all, for introducing me, and second of all, for inviting for this very exciting and very useful session. So yeah, I am Cholpan Naitakhunova, and I am one of the regional co-coordinators for the Central Asia Youth for Water Network. And I'm here today to share with you the experiences of young professionals in water, concretely in our region of Central Asia, and possibly in a way reflect on my personal story of how they engaged me. I would call it this way, you know, because yeah, before I was just roaming around as a happy young person, I would say, you know, and doing all sorts of different interesting things in my life. But then when I got engaged to our network and its activities, I understood that it's for long, and I'm not just a happy young person, but now a happy young person in water. So yeah, Isabella, could you please go to the next slide? So a few words about our network. We are, when we say that we're a regional network, we mean that we are the youth network working for the promotion of water issues and water cooperation among youth in concretely Central Asia. And Central Asia is the 5 former Soviet Union republics plus Afghanistan. And why it's important to say exactly like these countries, because if we look at the bigger like river basin, it's basically the Aral Sea basin, it's called, and it's basically all of these 6 countries. So the Central Asian 5 plus Afghanistan, they share the biggest rivers of our region, the Amu Darya and Sirdarya. And what we do is we connect youth, and of course, youth, it's very diverse, yeah, be it the students of universities and even the high schools. It's the young specialists, activists, enthusiasts, and basically we, like in other words, we want more of youth in water, acting for, like doing action for water, yes. And in a way, I think, Emily, also like getting back to the question I got from you today on the icebreaker. Yeah, so basically, like how often, or like do you see young people in the room? So let's say that we are working as a network to get to see more young people in the room. Yeah, so we have more than 1,000 young people from all of the countries that we cover as network members. And when we talk about the structure of our team, so it's basically 2 regional co-coordinators, myself and my colleague Lazat Sarlabayeva, and we have 6 national coordinators. So basically, while I'm based in Kyrgyzstan, Lazat is based in Kazakhstan. So we, yeah, the 2 regional co-coordinators in 2 different countries of the region. But then the whole region is covered by the 6 national coordinators. So 1 coordinator and his or her team per country. And basically, yeah, since we work on a lot of issues involving use and water action in Central Asia, a special focus is given to water cooperation, as I said, and we are supported by the YWPs Central Asia global and regional movement, and our partners are the ISW, the International Secretariat for Water, and the German Kazakh University. I'm ready for the next slide. So just a few words, yes. Basically, water and Central Asia. This is a picture of, let's say, the depiction of the tragedy, like from Central Asia, the RLC crisis, yeah, the tragedy. And basically, this is like one of examples for which we are, let's say, very well known in the world, yeah. But basically, it used to be one of the, I think, the 4th largest sea in the world, and due to human activities, the consequences was that because, let's say, because of the water mismanagement, we had this result. And why I wanted just to show this is that, you know, unless water action and youth engagement are done, then possibly this kind of examples will be seen. But when we talk about water in Central Asia, so basically the water cooperation is one of also big matters, yeah. And like when we talk about the projections until 2040, the region, the countries of the region are are projected to be under very high levels of water stress. That's the first thing. And the second of all, the current state of our, let's say, regional cooperation on water is there, but it could be better. Yeah, basically, and then the RLC, this example, I think this is a very good way to do something for water. Next slide, please. And yeah, when we say using water in Central Asia and what's wrong, so basically we have a lot of young people, we have these water issues, but then we at some point we really need to connect these. And I think this potential, this diversity of talent of youth could actually be really used to get involved in water action in Central Asia. And as of now, the current overall regional challenges would include this lack of quality knowledge, lack of quality education, and overall the water-related water resources management job market being not that attractive for the youth. And yeah, I mean, so while the individual barriers they include this lack of knowledge, lack of competencies, and this leads to lack of confidence, let's say, yeah, in entering the sector. The chronic systemic issues like the education situation, the lack of support, of integration of the youth, all of these are actually there. They are quite acute, and I think it's exactly what our network is doing, is trying to contribute to solving these matters. The next slide, please. Yeah, and continuing on youth and water in Central Asia, I would like to show you, let's say, the picture of what our network is doing. And what our network is doing, we're actually trying to promote action and engagement of youth in Central Asia across different sectors, borders, generations. And how we do this, actually, when each year we develop our annual work plans together with the whole team, so the regional coordinators, the national coordinators, the partners, we divide our activities into two levels. And so basically the national coordinators with their teams, they would be implementing all sorts of different water and climate activities. These might be SDG contests or local conferences, climate conferences of youth, the work days, and many more. And here the national coordinators, they are free, let's say, yeah, to plan and implement the activities depending on the national context. But then we have also some common and as I see, very meaningful, important activities which are at the regional level, and that's where let's say all we come together and do our activities. So, for example, the Transboundary River Basin Dialogues is a very big let's say activity we do as the Central Asia Youth for Water Network, and this is very important because it's in line with our mission, yes, and which states empowerment of a new generation of water leaders in Central Asia for peace and sustainable development. So water cooperation is the focus of these transboundary river basin dialogues, and we usually do the YWPs index, so water cooperation index calculations during the dialogues. We do negotiation simulations. We have all sorts of different trainings, exchange with experts, and so on and so on. And then we do RLC expeditions, and this is the picture on the right side. Basically, this is when we take the youth to show the result of what water mismanagement or inaction can lead to. And then this second picture is basically the recent and biggest so far Transboundary River Basin Dialogue that we held right after the Dushanbe Water Conference in June. And here the use of the Sirdarya Basin, and the Sirdarya Basin is basically shared by 4 countries of Central Asia. So we gathered young people here not just to broaden their knowledge and build capacities here, but also have this vast exchange with local and international experts and cooperation in Central Asia. Yeah. And then, of course, global level, because we as a network try to serve as this platform for Central Asian youth to get engaged across levels. And so the global ones is a few times in the past years, we participated in the general assemblies of the World Youth Parliament for Water. We took part in the Stockholm World Water Week, the World Water Forums, the Dushanbe water process, and this one was also very meaningful to me because there I had this first exchange with all of my colleagues present today and who are representing and leading all these different global youth movements, organizations, networks. And since in the beginning I mentioned that we work on water, first of all, but then also on all of these different other SDG topics, and climate is one of them. So we do LCOIs, we had engagement with COI16, and even for the first time in Central Asia, like one person representing like young people, they got to attend COP26. So this is basically the picture of what our network does. And as I said in the beginning, CAIF network is exactly about this action and engagement and across borders, generations, sectors. And I believe that we need to continue our work exactly on this way. And there are issues that on which we still have to work, because we are like a growing network, but then we are also like looking on like getting more other things done. And I think I have the last slide. Yes, I think this is the picture of water in Central Asia and water in Central Asia should be. This is the Pearl of Central Asia, Isikul Lake. It's a high mountainous lake in Kyrgyzstan, and despite being a lake, the water is saline in there. And but I just thought that this is the picture that should be there. And we as a CAIF network and Youth of Central Asia are working towards it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chopin. So I would invite Maria Mercedes and Xuan for presenting regarding the Unify for Water and Climate. Just a quick note, we will shorten a little the Q&A session in order to preserve the time for the speakers. Maria, are you ready?
Yes, you're ready.
Okay, perfect. The floor is yours.
Great, thank you so much. Welcome everyone. I'm Maria Mercedes Curi. I'm the regional focal point for Latin America at Unify. And together with my colleague Sihan, we also work on the Unify's policy team. So today we're going to make a short, brief introduction to what is Unify. And then we're going to talk about the Youth Development Plan and Agenda for Water and Climate, which is one of the main initiatives that Unify is leading at the moment. So if we go to the next slide, please. Let's begin by understanding what Unify stands for. Unify is the United Nations International Federation of Youth for Water and Climate. But DF, it's important to note that it also stands for festival. So Unify is basically a platform that aims at gathering all the different youth movements into one unique voice. And it will also foster this unique gathering that will take place at the beginning of next year, where we will all get together and finalize our YWPs that I will be explaining later on the road towards the next year's UN Water Conference. So if we go to the next slide. Great. So as I was saying, Unify is the youth group for water within the UN system. And we are officially endorsed by WMO, the World Meteorological Organization, but also by the Secretary General Envoy of Youth. So yeah, basically Unify, I don't know if you heard about how UNGO is the official youth constituency for UNFCCC. Unify is the official UN youth constituency on water in the framework of WMO. So in the next slide. So maybe just to make a short recap on what Unify has achieved so far. So basically, Unify has been presented by the organizers of the UN 2023 Water Conference, the Dutch and the Tajik governments, as the official platform that will consolidate the youth inputs on the road towards this conference. In line with this, the Youth Development Plan and Agenda, which I will introduce next, has been included, and it's important, has been highlighted in the final declaration of the Dushanbe water process that took part in June this year. We are also conducting a survey to gather direct perspectives of the youth in terms of water and climate, and so far we have more than 2,000 responses. And we have also launched Unify membership. That is more of like the long-term means of engagement with Unify. So far we have around 1,500 individuals that have registered, but also 22 organizations. So it's important for you to know that if you are already part of a youth organization, your organization can join Unify, but you can also join Unify as an individual. So into the next slide. Great. So the Youth Development Plan and Agenda for Water and Climate. So basically, this is a strategy, it's a roadmap that advocates for youth inclusion in different aspects of water management. And it's basically a policy document that will be finalized before next year's water conference of the UN. So that's not only governments, but also other kind of stakeholders like international organizations or private stakeholders can make commitments towards including the youth. And so one of the main campaigns that we are fostering with the YWPA in parallel is the 30-30-30 campaign. So this has been put forward by Noémie Plumier, who is our leader in the Water and Climate Coalition, and who works with our director at Unify closely. So yeah, the 30-30-30 campaign basically advocates for having 30% of youth representation, people under 30 by 2030. So if we go to the next slide. Here it's some other features of the YWPA. So as I was saying, it will collate all the different inputs from the youth and that we will present it in next year's water conference. We have been working on this closely with Sihan and other members of the Unified team. We gathered different policy documents, reports, we conducted expert consultations, and we are also having this survey that by the end we will share the link so that you can complete this survey as well. That is a direct way for you to get your inputs, your perspectives into the YWPA. It's also an it's tried to be as consultative and representative as possible, and it's important to know that it tries to capture all the problems, but also gives solutions into actionable goals and a plan of action towards 2023-30. So next slide. Great. So I'll go briefly on this one so that you know how this YWPA how we are working on this. So basically, we are having a huge focus on trying to make our demographics as wide as possible. So that's why on Unify, we are a team of 14 regional focal points, 2 per region, and each one of us is in charge of fostering, of gathering responses through our survey into from our regions. So as I was saying, the gaps and challenges are captured through the survey. And then we are also conducting validation workshops, which my colleague Sihan will explain later on, whether we validate the results from the survey, but we also work on the solutions parts in order to come up with goals, objectives, and concrete projects, programs, and activities. So from the next slide onwards, my colleague Sihan will finish discussing the YDVA.
Great, thank you so much, Maria, and good afternoon, everyone from Singapore. My name is Zahan, and I'm the regional youth focal point for Eastern and Southeastern Asia at Unify. And just before I go and finish this presentation, also like to thank Isabella for the invitation, and more broadly to thank the water community for including youth as a key stakeholder, because unlike many of you here, I come originally from the climate sector, and water was something that I was interested to find out more. And I've been, met with a lot of expertise and welcome and support from the teams of young professionals here in this call. So I'm really glad to be contributing to this effort. So following up from the last slide that Maria was sharing, our YDPA is basically drafted through this conceptual model that you can see on the screen visually. So basically, the way in which we try to connect the different problem dimensions that we identify to our solutions is via the survey, in which we have around 60 item statements that each express a particular problem or gap or challenge that young people agree on to differing extents. And then from there, we will, we have been and we will continue to run the series of validation workshops, whereby we aim to gather young people's ideas on the solutions. And if you look to your right, you can see the way in which each solution dimension is composed of different tiers. First and foremost, by a goal that we aim to achieve through this solution dimension. And then secondly, on the second level, through different objectives that we aim to achieve. And thirdly, by these PPAs or projects, programs, and activities that can be implemented by different stakeholders, including youth, government, private stakeholders, and others. And the aim of having this conceptual model is so that we can come up, or young people can be provided with a platform and opportunity to come up with these concrete PPAs, which can then contribute to these goals and objectives and address some of these problem dimensions that we have identified. So that's the conceptual model of the YDPA. And the aim, as I mentioned, is really to come up with these PPAs, not just as a recommendation, but also at the 2023 UN Water Conference for the consideration, the adoption, and the implementation by the different stakeholders in the Water Action Agenda decade for the upcoming few years. And moving on to the next slide, this is a roadmap of how we will be crafting our YDPA. So as I mentioned, this is a very collective, representative, and inclusive process that includes all the key actors. And in July this year, after the Dushanbe water process, which some of us or most of us at Unify were there at, we are consolidating the inputs from our validation workshop in Dushanbe and prior to Dushanbe. And for the upcoming few months, we aim at running a range of validation workshops, as well as internal discussions with our members, so that we can get to drafting the PPAs, and also towards the end of this year, to be able to prioritize some critical actions that should be highlighted in the YDPA for the adoption of these stakeholders. especially at COI and COI 17 and COP27. And then leading up to next year, early next year, we will then engage in some preliminary commitment building by these stakeholders and aim to present the final version of the YWPA with the finalization of the commitments at the UN 2023 Water Conference. And maybe moving on to the final slide. Yes, just before I finish, as Maria was saying, we have a range of activities that are very much open to all of you here to join, to young people from around the world, regardless of your experience, your sector, where you're based. This is really a global youth movement. And in July, we have launched our membership to all, and we are continuing to attract young people, whether young professionals, advocates, or any young person who want to learn more and contribute to this water and climate agenda. As we speak right now, most of our team is in the Philippines to organize the Regional Conference of Youth for the Asia and Pacific region, hosted by the government of Philippines, where they will aim to come up with the Asia and Pacific youth position on water and climate issues. And then moving on from there, we will be at One Young World, COI 17 and COP27, where we will continue to run our validation workshops and present an initial draft of YWPA. And finally, but also very importantly, we will be organizing the Youth Summit early next year as a precursor event for young people, by young people, to the UN 2023 Water Conference. So you are all invited to join us in this movement. And maybe moving on to the final slide, we have a very, just a shout out to our communications team, who is always very active and very creative, and you are very welcome to join us. And Maria has posted the link in the chat to our different initiatives, validations, and other activities. Even beyond the YWPA, we have a range of activities for young people we have in lineup in store for you. And so follow our social media, and we hope to engage everyone in the year ahead. And thank you so much for your time, and I'll pass the time back to Isabella.
Thank you, Maria. Thank you, Zehan. So without further delay, Michelle, are you ready?
Yes, I am. Sorry.
Perfect.
Cool. Thank you. Great. So yeah, thank you very much, Isabella, for the introduction and for inviting me to speak at this event. If we could please go to the next slide, please. Yes, so today I'll be talking about the World Federation of Engineering Organizations Young Engineers Working Group on Climate Action, as well as our key takeaways from international climate initiatives since forming our working group. If we go to the next slide, thank you. So again, I'll be talking about our working group, which is a little bit different from the other networks that we've heard about today, and it is part of the wider WFEO network. And the WFEO is an NGO which represents about 100 member associations and over 30 million engineers around the world. And our working group was created at the start of 2021 out of the WFEO Young Engineers Future Leaders Committee, and there are 8 members of this working group. And our working group is made out of young engineers who work across different sectors. So for me, I work in the water sector, but there's others who work in energy and transport. And our working group also works really closely with our youth representatives from each of the WFEO member associations. If we can go to the next slide. So the main aims of our working group is to contribute to the sustainable development of countries by streamlining national initiatives carried by young engineers to contribute to the United Nations targets. And for us, we're hoping to bridge the gap between young engineers and policy and decision makers by providing opportunities for young engineers in climate action policymaking. And, you know, when we started this working group, we found that young engineers were often not represented in policymaking, and also the climate action work done by young engineers was normally done in silos. And so we sought to connect young engineers from different member associations to learn from each other and to work together as well. If we go to the next slide. So as I mentioned, our working group was formed in 2021. And so here's just a brief overview of some of the outcomes that we achieved in 2021. So if you see here in the top left corner, we were involved with the COP26 Resilience Hub in partnership with the Global Water Partnership, as well as the International Secretariat of Water. And we so I think actually Rihanna is on this call from YWP, and we wrote that article at the top with ISW, and also our working group initiated the climate declaration, which you can see in the bottom right hand corner there, and I'll talk a little bit about that later on. And if we go to the next slide, we also presented our climate declaration to national parties and different NGOs. If we go to the next slide, please. So for us in 2022, we are looking at continual partnerships with young engineers from each WFEO member association to understand what young engineers are facing internationally with respect to climate action, as well as to advocate for young engineers to be involved in climate action policymaking. And our 4 priority areas are around policy recommendations, capacity building, and partnerships. And if anyone's interested, we also have a COP26 summary and a COP27 policy recommendations report. We can go to the next slide. So now I'm going to be talking about the main insights that we've gained since forming our working group. And I think there's a lot of themes that have come across today in terms of cooperation and looking at bridging gaps in capacity building. So the 3 main insights were to work with other youth networks to provide a unified youth voice. Second, to help other young professionals and youth make an impact, and also to partner with specialists to bridge gaps. If we go next slide, thanks. So in terms of the first insight of working with other youth networks to provide a unified youth voice, just acknowledging that each youth network has its differences and strengths and areas, but working together on similar goals can really help amplify the youth voice. And so for us last year, as I mentioned before, we initiated the joint declaration containing 12 policy recommendations for COP26, and 3 of these were fully adopted in the Glasgow Climate Pact. 7 were officially not acknowledged and recognised, and 2 were further identified for further discussions in subsequent COPs. And for us, our climate declaration was an unprecedented collaboration between key international youth organisations such as Youngo and the UN group for major group for children and youth, as well as the World Bank Global Youth for Climate Network, and members of the United Nations Secretary General's Youth Advisors for Climate. We also received formal endorsements from NGOs, and we shared our climate declaration widely with government delegations, as seen in the earlier slide. Media, NGOs, and the 2021 UNFCCC Climate Champions. You can see in the photo on the right there, one of the members of our working group presenting the climate declaration to Nigel Topping. Cool, so if we go next slide, please. Other ways which we have collaborated with young professionals and youth networks is to organise intergenerational dialogues and events. So 2 examples of this have been the UNFCCC Capacity Building Hub, where we worked with the World Bank Global Youth for Climate Network, and then as well before I mentioned the COP26 Resilience Hub with GWP and ISW. And I want to iterate again, partnering and learning from the diverse strengths and experiences of other
3-minute warning.
networks
3-minute warning.
and people really does help amplify the youth voice. So just if we move on to the next slide, insight 2. So helping other youth and young professionals make an impact, just acknowledging that there may be knowledge gaps which your steering committees and networks can help bridge. So so for us, a major observation was that many youth face the barrier of understanding the structures and systems and processes around negotiations and policy making. And so in reaction to this, we created capacity building sessions to help interested youth make an impact in their discussions with policymakers. So if you can go to the next slide. These are just some of the examples of the capacity sessions we have planned or planning for this year. If we go to the next slide. And finally, the last insight that we've had is to partner with specialists to bridge gaps, as they can provide guidance and build understanding in knowledge gap areas. And so for us, our initial knowledge gaps were in the landscape of policy making and presenting policy to policy makers, and also as we came to write our policy recommendations, there were some areas that we were less familiar with, so we sought some advice from those organisations listed. And what really came out was the importance of pre-negotiation engagements with negotiating blocks. So I had to fly through all of that. I know we're really short on time, so yeah, thank you very much for listening, and please do reach out if you have any questions.
Thank you, Michelle, for rushing in the final minutes. We just have 1 minute, so I do ask that all participants, they submitted their questions in the link that Emily has shared from the Miro board, and that the speakers, they do take some minutes going over the questions and replying to them as much as possible. And to the participants present here today, thank you for attending our side event. And please do connect with us with the mails that we share, and feel free to follow us on our platforms and engaging with the networks that we share today. So for the speakers, thank you for joining, and thank you for attending our side event.
Thank you all.
So Young, are you there? Did we close the recording? Someone from the organization, should I stop recording? Okay.